and good afternoon, friends. Welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session, we would be continuing our series on disaster management. We are going to talk on flood disasters in detail, and for this discussion, we have once again with us in our studios Dr. B.W. Pandey. Dr. B.W. Pandey is Associate Professor in Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. So, dear friends, if you want to ask questions from Dr. B.W. Pandey on flood disaster, do call us through our toll-free number. Our toll-free number is 1-800-110-430. Friends, you are requested to call in the last 10 minutes so that the lecture goes uninterrupted as well as your queries are also resolved simultaneously. So, let's welcome our guest, Dr. B.W. Pandey, and let's try to understand on flood disasters. Hello sir, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you. Hello friends, good afternoon. Today we are going to discuss flood disaster in the series of the disaster management. Flood disaster is a major concern in India and many parts of the world. Flood is a phenomenon of risk, hazard and disaster related to water availability, flow of water and excess of water. So, first of all, as a simple, I'd like to explain what is a flood. There is a basic concept of the flood, that a flood is usually caused by rain, heavy rain, thunderstorms and thawing of the snow. Sometimes these are natural, and you find over the slopes of the mountain, like in western Himalaya, there are occurrences of the flash flood due to cloudburst. So it gives plenty of water and it rains out as a flash flood. It's considered to be a temporary condition of 2 or more acres of dry land, either overflowed with inland or tidal waters, rapid or runoff of the surface waters, mud flows, or simply you can say a rising and overflowing of a body of water, especially into normally dry land. The flood inundated the whole area. The basic concept of the flood, I'd like to mention here, you can see this small sketch that can identify you what is the band of tolerance. POT is the band of tolerance. See, water is a friend and water is a foe. It all depends on the circumstances and the amount of water. See the 2 lines drawn as a band of tolerance. So if availability of water is within the band of tolerance, that water is a resource. It is life support substance. Water is the most basic primary resource of the biosphere. Livelihood, sustainability of life, sustenance of life, development of life, all depends on water. That water is a resource if it is found between the band of tolerance. Friends, if water reduces, there is a scarcity of water. See, the departure of water from band of tolerance from the both sides, you can admire this. This is the condition of drought, scarcity of water. Water is not available for the uses of mankind, either economic use or social use or ecological use. then this condition is known as drought. And if the drought prevails for a couple of years continuously, so drought of the today is a famine of tomorrow. It can cause severe drought conditions, it can cause the famine and have mass scale migration of the people, mass scale migration of animals and birds, mass scale scarcity of food, hunger, malnutrition, starvation, because of scarcity of water. And now you can see, if the water from the channel, if it crosses the band of tolerance, then it exceeds the surrounding areas, cultural areas, agricultural areas, habitats, settlements get marooned with water, then the excess of water is known as flood. Friends, this is basic concept of the band of tolerance, which determine the nature and the concept of the drought and flood. It is all depends on the amount of water, availability of water. Therefore, if you see the water, main concern of the flood in India is excessive rainfall, excessive concentrated rainfall. The excessive volume of water that comes through the rain. It may be in the plain area, it may be in the mountainous areas. A spatial distribution of land or geographical features. The intensity of duration of rainfall over a catchment area. The capacity of the water course or stream network to convey the runoff. Catchment and weather conditions prior to the rainfall event, like groundwater condition, topography, and the tidal influences. Friends, these are important factors which causes flood. And India is one of the worst affected, flood affected country in the world, because India is a land of monsoon. Monsoon having concentrated rainfall season, where most of the rivers get excess water, water is spread out from the channel and cover the surrounding areas, marooned the agricultural land, settlement areas. That's what happened in Assam, West Bengal, Bihar, Eastern Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat region. So overall these important factors I would like to discuss one by one. Excessive volume of rainwater. Monsoon, cyclone, both are the sources of excessive water. Friends, you know, in India, that half of eastern part of India having affluent climate. Eastern part of India having affluent climate, affluent topographical condition, affluent vegetational condition, affluent channel conditions. Western part of India characterized with influent characteristics like Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, parts of Gujarat, interiors of the peninsula, where there is a dry condition. Dry conditions known as influent, and the humid conditions known as affluent. And one more important parameter I would like to mention here, that if the condition is influent, the drainage density is less. Mean there are big distances of say several kilometers, maybe 50 kilometers, maybe 100 kilometers between the two channels, between the two rivers, like Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab. There are distances between the two channels. Therefore, the size of doab is very large, like Bist doab, Bari doab, Rachna doab, Chhaj doab, Sindhu Sagar doab. These are doabs of Indo-Satluj plain. And you will find that in Indo-Satluj plain, because rivers are located at far distance channels, there is less implication of the flood. Because the Indo-Satluj plain is influent plain. Because of influent plain, there is a dry condition. That's why you might have heard about the Indo-Satluj plain is characterized with Bangar condition. That Bhiwani Bangar, Rajasthan Bangar, Punjab Bangar, Pakistan Bangar, Baluchistan Bangar. There are a lot of Bangar areas. That area is dry. ISO heights. If you see the ISO heights of the western India decreases from 100 centimeter passing through the western Ganga plain, 100 centimeter, 75 centimeter, 50 centimeter, passing through west Indus plain, Satluj plain, Indus plain, it further decreases from 50 to 25 centimeter and finally less than 25 centimeter. Therefore, the amount of rainwater decreases to the west. So, the condition of influent condition develops in the west. So, there is a least impact of flood disaster in the western part of the country. If you see India in the eastern part of India where there is an affluent condition. Affluent condition means a humid climate, where if you see the ISO heights from upper Ganga plain, which is 100 centimeter, coming towards middle Ganga plain, it goes to 125 centimeter. Lower Ganga plain comes to 150 centimeter. Brahmaputra plain was 200 centimeter. And northeast India, 400 centimeter plus. So one can find that nature of rainfall decreases from east to west. Therefore, condition of flood dominates in the eastern part of the country. Because of excessive rainfall in the eastern plains, eastern great northern plains covering the middle Ganga plain, lower Ganga plain, Brahmaputra plain. Also, one can find that if you compare the highland lowland interaction, highland lowland impact on the flood. I'll discuss this at a later stage. First, this is the Himalaya as a whole. As compared to western Himalaya, there is more rainfall in the eastern Himalaya. In the western Himalaya, the valleys are wide. There is large size of anticlines and synclines. So large water divides, large size of valleys, and comparatively less rainfall. So water very much confined in the valley. If you come to the eastern Himalaya, in the eastern Himalaya, the three parallel ranges of the Himalaya, Himadri Himalaya, Himachal Himalaya, Shivalik Himalaya becomes closer. merging with each other. So in the Western Himalaya, average width of the Western Himalaya is 450 kilometer. Average width of the Eastern Himalaya is only 150 kilometer. You can understand that coming to the Eastern Himalaya, eastern part of Himalaya, valleys become narrow with excessive rainfall. Therefore, amount of water which exceeds in the catchment area, that creates flood. Therefore, narrow valleys, large number of valleys passing from mountain to the plain areas, so carrying large number of channels, large number of rivers. Therefore, the eastern part of India having affluent condition of the channels. There is a high drainage density, keep in mind. Low drainage density in the west and high drainage density in the east. Because of high drainage density in the east, the channels of the rivers are much closer. And if you remember the statement of the O.H.K. Spate, a very famous British geologist, geographer, scientist, O.H.K. Spate, he had mentioned that Gangetic Plain is one of the most affluent and monotonous plain in the world. Affluent plain, where drainage density is much closer. If you are crossing highways over Middle Ganga Plain, Lower Ganga Plain, you will find hardly, even less than 1 kilometer, you find one bridge. After another kilometer, you find another bridge. Maybe after 10 kilometers, find the big size of bridge. So large number of rivers draining almost parallel towards east. So drainage density is closer. Size of doabs are smaller, but number of doabs are more because of more number of channels. Therefore, the intensity of the flooding is more severe in the eastern Ganga Plain, Middle Ganga Plain, Lower Ganga Plain and the Brahmaputra Plain. If you remember the channels Yamuna, Ganga, Ram Ganga, Gomti, Ghaghra, Gandak, Kosi, and then Mahananda, Tista. Then you find the tributaries of river Ghaghra, Sarda, river Rapti, and these rivers comes in the news every year because of the flooding nature, plenty of water. Then coming to the eastern part, northeast, you find river Sankos, Tista, Sankos, Manas, Kameng, Subansiri, river Dihang, Brahmaputra, river Lohit. So the even less than half kilometer area, you will find a river channel draining out. So this is the main reason behind the inundation of flood in the eastern part. So there is a big difference in the eastern part and the western part of the country of the influent condition and the affluent condition over the flood. Similarly, you will find many regions in the world. I'd like to mention that in the world you will find that similar condition like India, so those areas which are affected by monsoon rainfall, summer rainfall. During summer season, northeast winds are prevailing. So due to northeast winds, which are passing over the Pacific Ocean, hit the eastern coast of China, Japan, Philippines, Southeast Asia. This area receives heavy rainfall. Then the mechanism of southern oscillation in Indian Ocean, which creates monsoon rain, heavy rainfall over Indian subcontinent. That creates heavy rainfall over Indian subcontinents and the subcontinent inundated by flood. Then Eastern Africa, including Kenya, Mozambique, Madagascar region. Eastern part of Brazil, Uruguay. Similarly, eastern part of USA. And these eastern coast, which receive rainfall during summer season, and in southern hemisphere, like Brazil, Madagascar and Australia, eastern coast receive rainfall their own summer season, because it lies in southern hemisphere. So their summer season based on Tropic of Capricorn, means November, December, January, February, or the summer season for them. So you can see the eastern coast receive heavy rainfall during summer season. And friends, I'd like to mention at this point how this summer rainfall is accelerated by the impact of cyclone. The tropical cyclone, by nature, tropical cyclones originate in the sea surface, like in the West Pacific, Indian Ocean, in the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, eastern coast of the Australia, then they find in the western part of the Atlantic Ocean. Tropical cyclones, which are affected by whirling nature Coriolis force and form the whirling mass of wind and carry a lot of moisture from the ocean. And finally, because of the impact of the trade winds, easterly winds, these tropical monsoon, which originate in the water body in the ocean, pushed by the trade winds and moves towards west. Going towards west, it hits the eastern coast. That's why eastern coast of Japan, China, Taiwan, Philippines, these are severely affected by cyclones like typhoon, Taifu, Chinchu. The eastern coast of Australia, where you find the Willy Willy, the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea of Indian Ocean, you find the cyclone Chakravat, and there are hurricanes along the eastern coast of USA. And friends, nowadays, today, yesterday, and even today, the impact of the cyclone which has hit the USA, and several thousand people are being affected in the Texas state. This is the worst cyclonic flood impact in Texas, in USA yesterday that hit. That's because of the cyclone. So those areas affected by summer monsoon and supported by cyclonic effect. Therefore, the eastern part of USA, eastern part of China, eastern part of India, these are the three most vulnerable flood-prone areas in the world. And sometimes occasional floods which occur in other parts of the world. India, especially the eastern part of India, apart from the heavy rainfall, cyclonic condition, there are also impact of highland, lowland climatic conditions. Friends, we will discuss the highland, lowland climatic conditions and its impact on flood in the later stage. So, those causes of the flood which I was discussing with you, will find the major causes are geology, relief, vegetation, catchment area, land use, meteorological conditions, shape and size of the surface and the channels, state of ground conditions, geological conditions. All these parameters, all these factors influence the severity, nature, spatial distribution of flood in the world in general and in India in particular. So, apart from these parameters, the excessive rainfall, spatial distribution of geographical features, intensity and duration of rainfall over catchment areas, the capacity of the water course of the stream network that I discussed about the affluent channels and the influent conditions of the channels, the catchment area and weather conditions, so humid condition, the dry condition. So, summer monsoon, summer rainfall causes more flood as compared to winter rainfall, because during summer rainfall, because of more temperature, there is more amount of evaporation. So, droplets of water are large, the intensity of rainfall is high. Therefore, most of the floods occur during summer season. During winter, rainfall is comparatively less, like a Mediterranean type of climate or Western Europe type of climate, where rainfall occur in winter. Similarly, if you compare the eastern Himalaya receives rainfall during summer season, so there is a heavy excessive rainfall. Western part of Himalaya receives western disturbances, so during winter rain, that is a less rain. So, flood is a phenomena of heavy concentrated monsoonal regime. That is the main cause of the flood in India and the other parts of the world. Friends, with this, I'd like to thanks, and if you have any question, you are most welcome. We'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much. Hello friends, good afternoon. Today we are going to discuss the flood disaster, flood management and flood related phenomena in India and the world. So flood and its relation with monsoon. You will find that monsoon is the major source of water in the Indian subcontinent. And this is the reason that Indian subcontinent known as land of monsoon. Monsoon, which is the result of the southern oscillation. Southern oscillation, when the winds of the Indian Ocean cross the equator and with Coriolis force, it turns right. So the basic nature of the southern oscillation, which is easterly, it becomes westerly after crossing the equator. That is in India known as southwest monsoon. So that southwest monsoon divides in two parts because of the Indian peninsula. It enters the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, so popularly known as Bay of Bengal monsoon branch and the Arabian Sea monsoon branch. Friends, this monsoon advances right from the month of June to September. This is called advancing monsoon season, June, July, August and September. Advancing monsoon season. So that monsoon advances throughout the country, through the Arabian Sea, through the Bay of Bengal, it covers entire India. So there is direct relationship between the monsoon and the causes, intensity, spatial distribution of flood. In the year when the monsoon fails, southern oscillation fails, that is called El Nino year. So El Nino impact on Indian monsoon. So when there is a warm water of the West Pacific and cold water of the East Pacific get reversed, means East Pacific gets warm water and West Pacific gets cold water, then this is the extreme negative impact on Indian monsoon, because the INSO, that means the southern oscillation fails. When southern oscillation fails, monsoon fails. That year is called drought year. That year is El Nino year. And opposite to this, if the temperature condition of the Pacific Ocean get reversed, normal condition means West Pacific have warm water, East Pacific have cold water, that is the ideal condition for Indian monsoon. So the southern oscillation become very active, and that year receive excessive amount of rainfall, and that year is flood year. Friends, I would like to mention the few cases of the excessive rainfall in India, that some historical prognostication of the flood you can find in Bihar. The flood of 1987, flood of Maharashtra 2005, flood of Gujarat 2005, flood of Assam 2012. No doubt Assam is inundated by flood every year because of its topographical condition of Brahmaputra catchment area. But the flood of 2012 was more worst, and number of casualties were maximum. the flash flood in Uttarakhand 2013, and the flood of Jammu Kashmir, the Srinagar in 2014. There are certain historical occurrences, and you can see most of these flood years are the ENSO year. The condition of the monsoon was very favorable. Impact of the Pacific Ocean over the Indian Ocean, Indian monsoon was very positive, and those years have excessive rainfall and created the history of the flood in India. Friends, the discussion over the flood and some case studies of like to discuss with a special reference to India, that why flood is more severe in North India as compared to South India. Number one. Number two, as compared to Western India, flood is more severe in the Eastern India. So there are large scale geographical variations, spatial variations, temporal variations in flood. As compared to North and South India. North India, the intensity and magnitude of the flood is high in North India as compared to South India. So basic parameters I would like to mention you again, that geological condition, topographical condition, and meteorological condition. Remember the three important points. Geological condition. Peninsular India is made of Archean rocks, Dharwad, Kudappa, which are called Gondwana rocks. Peninsula of India is a part of Craton. Craton is a very old lithological surface, very old geological surface. You know, Peninsula of India is as old as the age of Pangaea and Panthalassa. So it is a Craton, very old surface, where rocks are unfossiliferous. They are igneous and metamorphic rocks. Igneous and metamorphic rocks, which are very hard, imporous, and non-permeable. Non-permeable, therefore, there is a scarcity of underground water in peninsula. There is no seepage of water, there is no percolation of water, because there is no air in the particles of the rocks in peninsula. Therefore, the peninsular India have impermeable rocks. So 100% rainwater drain out over the surface. Number two, topography. Peninsular India having a clear general inclination from west to east. West have Western Ghats. Right from Western Ghats to the Bay of Bengal. You see, rivers in peninsula originate along the Western Ghats and drain in Bay of Bengal. So general hydrological channel characteristics of the peninsula draining west to east in the Bay of Bengal. So because of the slope, water drain out easily. And because of Western Ghats, there is rain shadow effect. Because of rain shadow effect, the amount of rainfall in peninsula is very less. there is rain shadow area. Therefore, causes of flood in Indian Peninsula is very rare, except few occurrences of flood during monsoon, where the easterly jet stream bring plenty of water, or because of cyclonic rainfall. Because of the easterly jet stream or because of cyclonic rainfall, there are rain. That creates flood in the coastal area of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, Odisha. Rest part of peninsula is free from the flood. But if you come to the northern part, Great Northern Plains. Geologically, it is made of sedimentary rocks. These are all Pleistocene, Holocene geomaterials. Therefore, there are large amount of sediments, mud, sand, lot of air in the particles of the rocks. Therefore, large amount of water percolates from underground. The more underground water. Secondly, topography, northern part of India, there is a plain, either Indo-Satluj plain or Ganga plain, including upper Ganga plain, middle Ganga plain, lower Ganga plain, and the Brahmaputra plain. So, average inclination of the slope is very, very less. Friends, we will be happy to know that in the lower Ganga plain, average inclination of the slope is less than 9 centimeter per kilometer. Means in 1 kilometer distance, the slope of the Ganga drainage is 9 centimeter. You can imagine that's the reason that the eastern flowing rivers in the Great Northern Plains, in the middle Ganga plain, lower Ganga plain, river channels become quite wide. If you see Ganga after Patna, both the banks of the Ganga is more than a kilometer apart because of the lack of slope. And third, hydrological condition is that there is heavy rainfall, more amount of rainfall. Because of heavy rainfall, in the eastern part, there is more water. So that it gives more flooding condition in the eastern part of India. And now, the second part, which is very interesting, is highland, lowland impact on the flood in India. This is a special case to North India. Flood in the lowland are the consequences of the highland. Lowland is flooded, but its impact, its causes because of the highland. Friends, Himalayas are a barrier to southwest monsoon. Himalayas are barrier to the southern oscillation. Remember, in the absence of Himalaya, the great northern plains of India might have been converted as a desert, no rainfall. Himalayas act as a barrier. Therefore, the rain-bearing winds ascend in the Himalaya and gets thermodynamic effect. There is terrestrial impact on the temperature, and that temperature impact on the monsoon winds. Because of altitudinal variation, impact of the normal lapse rate, the wind gets cooled down, condensed, and gives heavy rainfall. With the altitude in the Shivaliks, foothills of the Shivaliks, and the middle Himalaya gets excessive rainfall. and sometimes more than 100 centimeter rainfall occur all of a sudden within a couple of hours. That phenomena known as cloudburst. You find excessive rainfall in the Himalaya, and because of the slope, because of topography, slope, all that rainwater of the Himalaya drain out in the south. If you see the average inclination of Himalaya, the greater Himalaya, then lesser Himalaya, then Shivalik. The slope of the Himalaya is towards south, is towards India. Towards China in Tibet is extremely straight height. This is the reason that 100% rainwater of the Himalaya drains in India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Pakistan. Himalayan rivers do not drain in Tibet, China. That's why it is a precious asset for the country. That water, Himalayan water, ultimately drain in from mountain catchment area with the slope. Because of the kinetic force, because of the confined valley in the Himalayas with large number of anticlines and synclines, water confined among the synclines in the Himalaya. Because of the slope with the gravity, it drained out in the lower part. So water always drain from highland to lowland. Then, as soon as it enters in the lowland, in the plain area, in Tarai area, in the plain area, it flashes out. There are no more synclines, no more big catchment to cover the water. That water flashes out and creates floods in the plain. So water of the highland creates flood in the plain. This is the reason that the Ganga catchment, Ganga plain, I told you in the beginning that it is one of the most affluent plain in the world. And the nature of the affluent plain, Ganga plain, from upper Ganga plain in the west to the middle is the middle Ganga plain, to the east is the lower Ganga plain, and Ganga draining from upper plain to the lower plain. And see the nature of isoheight from 100 centimeter isoheight to 200 centimeter isoheight. Number one, water draining towards east, supported by rainfall in the plain area, supported by rainfall in the highland area. So all that water finally come to the plain and creates floods. So this is the mechanism called as highland lowland interaction of the flood. This is the reason that we cannot create an effective flood management without highland lowland chemistry, without understanding the physiographic condition of the highland lowland interactions. Therefore, hydrologists, geologists, geographers, ecologists, other scientists, planner, all together they are working on the issue of the highland lowland flood management. Friends, apart from these, there are a number of consequences of the floods that you know very well. Most important consequence is the displacement of the people. This very misery. And nowadays, you see the photograph, lot of photographs in the newspaper, lot of pictures and videos in the television, on the YouTube, on the social media, so many photographs. I do not like to repeat those photographs in this lecture. You can see that how people are living on the top of the hut, how the bridge is collapsing, flowing out with the water. The animals of the Assam rhinoceros in the Majuli Island, Kaziranga National Park. Hundreds of animals died because of the flood. There is no place. So many thousands and thousands of villages in Bihar are inundated with the flood. West Bengal, Bihar, eastern Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan. So all that people taken to the safer land. The impact of hurricane in USA today, where several thousand people were taken to the safe areas because of flood in the Houston, in the Texas. So many thousands of the people in India having displacement every year because of the flood, because flood is a regular phenomena in northern part of India. Due to flood, lot of diseases spread, health issues, sense of insecurity because of the flood. The psychological loss. Poor people are more psychologically attached with their belongings because they have least affordability. Once a goat or a cow or a buffalo or any animal died, that poor fellow is unable to buy the another cow, another goat. So they have more sentimentally attached with their belongings. There is a lot of sentimental, psychological loss. Their houses are flooded away. Apart from social impact, psychological impact, there are a number of economic impacts like loss of property, loss of life, loss of food grains, loss of infrastructure like roads and bridges, railways, and isolation. So many villages in Bihar, North Bihar, at least they are isolated over a month. Same situation in Assam and many parts of the world. Find ecological impact. Because of flood, there are heavy landslides over the mountain. Water is the cause of landslides, and Himalayas are young fold mountain which is more prone to landslides because of heavy rainfall, silting. And the inundation causes lot of interaction with the hazardous materials, structural contents damage from water, waterborne diseases, erosion, mud flows, and contamination of underground water, mainly in the Great Northern Plains. Most of the waterborne diseases develop during monsoon. Apart from monsoon, eastern coast of India also affected by cyclone. In Orissa, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh are the states of India which are severely affected by cyclone. 2016, the Varda cyclone created devastating flood situation in Tamil Nadu and Andaman Nicobar Islands. Friends, these, apart from the natural factors, there are anthropogenic factors responsible for the flood, like dam-induced flood, flash flood. So, construction of the dams on the rivers. So, like China creating big dam over Brahmaputra, and it is a strategic dam that can have the water disaster in India by the dam flood. Similarly, you see lot of cases between India and Pakistan on the dams of the Indus system of the rivers, Baglihar, Dulhasti, Salal, Kishan Ganga, so many dams in Jammu Kashmir. Pakistan raises alarm that India may create the flood disaster in Pakistan. So those countries which have upper highland areas can create the dam and store the water it can use as a water bomb to the lower countries. So sometimes flash flood, sudden flood, dam outrage can also create flood condition. And now, apart from these, one of the important reasons for the flood I'd like to mention is the glacial lake outburst flood. Many times over the mountainous areas like Himalaya, Northern Europe, Alaska region, where during summer season, due to heavy rain, temperature comes through the water, drop of water, glacial melts down, and because of the liquefied condition in the lake, all this glacial lake moves downward and it creates flood. Friends, you remember in 2013 the Kedarnath flood. Kedarnath flood, its severity, so many thousand people were died because of Kedarnath flood. This was glacial lake outburst flood. Friends, these are the major causes of the flood, and later on we'll discuss more detail about the flood management in a separate region. Today, my basic objective was to discuss the causes and the consequences of the flood, geographical factors affecting the flood, hydrological factors, geological factors, geohydrological factors, catchment factors, and spatial distribution of flood in the world in general and in India in particular. With these words, I'd like to thank you. If you have any question, you are most welcome. I will be happy to reply your question. Thank you very much.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us a precious session on flood disaster. Dear friends, we believe that you might have a set of questions. Though if you are not able to ask today, you have chance to ask questions by posting us at our email ID, that is info.cec@nic.in. When next time Dr. B.W. Pandey visits our studio, we will try to give answers to your questions. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.